The female general put her hand on the military commander's shoulder and said, "I'm sorry, but we cannot do this." What happened next left everyone stunned. Catherine Janeway had been in the army for years. She had climbed the career ladder through sheer determination, hard work, and talent. She was now in charge of an entire division. As such, she was one of the most important officers in the entire U.S. Army. But despite all that, she felt like she wasn't being taken seriously. In fact, when she met with some new recruits, they didn't even know who she was. And when she tried to introduce herself, they just laughed in her face. These disrespectful soldiers made fun of her gender and told her she should be at home taking care of her family instead of working for the army. Catherine was furious, but she knew that if she lost her cool, she would lose their respect. So she did the only thing she could think of. She ordered them to perform push-ups until their faces were white. That showed those insolent soldiers that she wasn't someone to mess around with. But not everyone respected her. The recently appointed 4-star general, Stanley McChrystal, seemed to have a problem with her from the start. He never looked at her during meetings, and he often openly disagreed with her ideas. This didn't bother Catherine too much because she knew what she was doing. She was a brilliant tactician. But then something happened that changed everything. One day the president contacted Stanley and ordered him to capture a notorious arms dealer by any means necessary. "We have a lot of leads on his location, but none of them have panned out so far," the president said. "If you can't find him, we will send in the Navy SEALs. But that's a last resort. He is dangerous, but he must be brought to justice." Stanley pondered for a moment. "I need someone for this job who can think outside the box," he said. His eyes suddenly landed on Catherine. She was sitting quietly in the corner of the room, and he hadn't noticed her before. "General Janeway, you are in charge of finding this man. If anyone can pull it off, it's you." All eyes turned to Catherine. She knew exactly what the president and Stanley were thinking. They thought she was hot-headed and impulsive, which could be good in a situation like this. But she also had a reputation of being reckless. It was up to her to prove them wrong. She had a plan, but it was risky. She wanted to send a group of elite soldiers to the city where the arms dealer was believed to be hiding. The plan was to surround the building where he was staying and raid it while he slept. The only problem was that she didn't have enough troops to cover the whole city. There was a good chance the arms dealer had eyes and ears everywhere and he would hear about the raid and escape. She needed a way to distract him and lure him out into the open. And she had the perfect person for the job. One of Catherine's best friends, Major Derek James, was the most charming soldier she knew. He could talk his way into or out of anything, and she knew he would be more than happy to help her out. "You want me to seduce the guy?" Derek asked when Catherine explained the plan to him. "Of course not," Catherine replied. "I just want you to get close to him and try to find out where he is hiding. I'll send the rest of the team after you." Derek nodded and set to work. A few hours later, he returned to Catherine with a big smile on his face. "I found him," Derek whispered. "He's staying in a small villa outside the city. It's heavily guarded, but I think I can get in." Catherine smiled back. "Good work, Derek. Let's go." The mission was more difficult than Catherine had anticipated. The arms dealer had indeed surrounded his villa with bodyguards. And when Derek tried to sneak in, he was caught. Luckily, Derek had a hidden blade and managed to fight off the bodyguards. But that made Catherine's job much harder. She couldn't send in a large team of soldiers to arrest the arms dealer now. He would surely notice them and raise the alarm. She needed to be smart and sneaky. She chose a small group of soldiers who were experts in infiltration. They would sneak into the villa undetected and wait for the right moment to strike. But as they prepared for the mission, Catherine's worst fears were confirmed. The general, Stanley, had called for air support. It seemed he had decided to take matters into his own hands. Catherine tried to call him on the radio, but he didn't answer. She knew he wouldn't let her finish the job if he didn't know about it. She reached for the radio and said in a calm voice, "General McChrystal, this is General Janeway. We are moving in on the target. I repeat, we are moving in." She hung up the radio and turned to her team. "Let's go." They infiltrated the villa without a single sound. They moved from shadow to shadow, always keeping an eye out for the enemy. Suddenly, one of the soldiers screamed. He had stepped on a loose floorboard, and the noise echoed through the silent villa. All hope seemed to be lost. But then something unexpected happened. Gunfire erupted outside. The armed dealer's men had seen the helicopters and were now firing at them. The soldiers outside fought back, but it seemed like they were being picked off one by one. The odds were stacked against them. But then Catherine saw an opportunity. The arms dealer had come out onto the balcony to see what was happening. It was now or never. Catherine grabbed her rifle and took aim. She fired a warning shot into the air. The arms dealer froze. He slowly raised his hands in the air and walked down the stairs. The other soldiers entered the room and arrested him without a single struggle. Mission accomplished. As the sun rose, the soldiers gathered around Catherine. They cheered and congratulated her on her brilliant work. She had not only proven them wrong, but also saved countless lives. But then she saw him. General McChrystal stood in front of the group, and his face was pale. He looked at Catherine and whispered, "I am so sorry." "Sorry?" Catherine asked. "What are you talking about?" "I tried to arrest you," Stanley admitted. "I received orders to bring you in for questioning regarding the missing supplies. I'm sorry, but it had to be done." Catherine was stunned. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I couldn't. I'm sorry. Please understand." But Catherine didn't need to hear any more. She understood perfectly well why the general had tried to arrest her. Even though she had proved herself time and time again, there were still people in high places who didn't trust her. She knew that she couldn't stay in the army. She had considered leaving for a long time, but she had hoped that things would change. Now she was sure of one thing: it was time to move on. "Thank you for your service, General," Stanley said. "You have done an outstanding job." But Catherine shook her head. "No, I don't think I have. I don't think I can do this anymore." And with that, she turned and walked away. The other officers watched in silence as she disappeared into the morning mist. They had lost one of their best, and they knew it. Catherine walked through the forest, the morning mist rising around her like a shroud. She didn't know where she was going, but she didn't care. She had served her country with honor and distinction, and she had nothing to be ashamed of. But then she heard a voice behind her. "Where are you going?" Catherine turned and saw the general standing there. He looked at her with admiration. "I want to thank you for everything you have done. You have my respect." He walked up to her and placed his hand on her shoulder. "I know you will do great things in the future, General Janeway." Catherine looked at him for a moment. She knew that he was being sincere. "Thank you, General," she said. "I appreciate that." And with that, she turned and walked away. The general watched her go, and a sad smile touched his lips. He had made a mistake, but he was too proud to admit it. Catherine was right. He should have listened to her in the first place. But now she was gone, and he knew that he might never see her again. This story shows that no matter how talented or qualified a woman is, she will always have to deal with sexism and discrimination. It also shows that women should never give up in the face of adversity, and that they should always strive to be the best they can be.